The second part of Rahu and Ketu in the houses. So when the Ketu is placed in the seventh house, now Ketu is going to cause trouble in matters of marriage and relationship and partnership of all sorts, even business partnership, because here the person is too much dependent on others. Seventh house is opposite to the person, and hence it denotes others, everyone who is coming into your life. Now Rahu is in first house. So here the native needs to be on his own, to be not dependent on marriage or relationship too much. Does not mean that the native does not marry or he should not marry, but the native must develop his own power and strength and individuality, because the first house is about the native. So Rahu here shows weakness in the personality and an excessive reliance on others to give identity to the person. So that is the lesson of Rahu in first and Ketu in seventh. And generally, if you see many charts with Ketu in seventh, the person might have lost his spouse or got divorced or the marriage didn't work out. It is because now Ketu is forcing you to develop that individuality. That will happen only if you don't have someone. If someone is constantly with you, how will you develop that individuality and be alone? Only when you are alone you can develop that individuality. So that is why Ketu in 7 does not give good results pertaining to marriage, because the universe now wants you to be alone and explore your own self rather than always be in the company of others. So this is somewhat a difficult position, and especially if you have Rahu Dasa, then that period is going to be very lonely, and not many opportunities for relationship or marriage may arise. Or even if Ketu Dasa is running, then the existing relationships can go through some sort of problem. In some cases, the native might not lose the spouse or get divorced, but the spouse is not very active in marriage, thus giving a sense of loneliness. Even though the partner is there physically, mentally and emotionally, the partner is not involved with the native's life. So that sort of loneliness can be there in the marriage when Ketu is in 7th house. So the Ketu house will never be satisfactory, and when it is in 7th house, marriage and relationship become the primary avenue through which Ketu shows his isolated behavior. Ketu wants us to isolate the person from whichever house it is, because Ketu shows where we have attachments, lot of attachments and lot of security and investment there. So when it is in 7th house, the native is always wanting people, and especially relationship, marriage and such stuff to give security to the person. But the person can never be alone, can never be as an independent person, needs someone always by his side. So that is why Ketu is disturbing marriage here, to give an opportunity for the Rahu in first house person to develop his own individual identity. When Ketu is in the 8th house, it will affect the native's ability to benefit from other people's resources, because the 8th house is other people's resources, opposite to the second house, which is your own resource, your own money, your own earnings. The 8th house is also insurance. Insurance is nothing but other people's money combined, which is giving you some sort of protection. Insurance is basically others' money. Let's say you have purchased an insurance, but you never seek any benefit, you do not claim anything, then someone else is going to claim your money, someone from the insurance company. Someone who has put that insurance is going to benefit from your money, which you have contributed to the company. So the 8th house is about insurance, taxes and other people's money basically, which is not earned by you. So when we benefit from other people resources, it is the 8th house. So when Ketu is here, it shows that the person has benefited too much from other people's resources. and maybe even through marriage partners. For example, there are many people who marry and they just live on the uh, support of the spouse. They don't do anything, they don't try to earn, they just stay and they benefit from the husband's resources. So here it shows the person is not being productive. With Rahu in the second, the native does not want to take responsibility and is always leaning on someone to provide money and material security. Because the Rahu in second shows the person does not know how to manage his own life without the company of his partner or his even business partners sometimes. Because let's say you're doing a business and you are always taking more than your fair share from your business partner, then you might have Ketu in 8, because Ketu in 8 means that you are relying on other people's money to come through. So Ketu here will disturb that, it will disturb your partner's earnings. The partner might not have a stable job or he might not be earning as much as you are, and then you have a lot of stress with Rahu in second where you have to provide for family and you have to take the responsibility, you have to take more than your fair share of responsibilities. This because Ketu is now failing in the 8th house and it is not providing you the benefit of 8th house. So these people need to stop relying on others. Even for a small help, they should not be dependent on others and they should try to fulfill within themselves. They have to take care of their own life. When Ketu is in the 9th house, Rahu will be in the 3rd house. So this shows the person is very similar to again the Ketu in 1st and 5th house. This person can be very self-centered and focused on his own life. Ketu in the 9th shows the person is very religious, or uh, the person has a lot of beliefs. It need not be a religious belief, but the person has more belief than facts. So this person need to develop facts and logic. Third house is house of logic and willpower. So the third house Rahu person has to develop the communication and the facts and practical life, because ninth house is idealistic life. What you believe, what you wish, what you hope for is ninth house. Ketu in the ninth shows a person can be very broad-minded and idealistic in his approach. But third house is the day-to-day practical life. So Rahu in third needs to develop the practical life experimentation, because in life everything will not work out as we believe or as we hope. That is the ninth house, what we wish or what we believe, what we hope for. The third house is what happens, the struggles of day-to-day life, because something might turn out to be different than what we hoped. So we have to experiment and see which works for us. So third house Rahu needs to experiment more things and see if these beliefs are actually true or they are just a random blind faith. So ninth house is the house of blind faith. Let's say you are a student and you have blind faith that tomorrow you would somehow pass. But without doing the third house study, then how you will pass? So Rahu in third needs to. That is why Rahu in third people can have trouble in studies actually, because they are often idealistic about their studies and they think that they will pass somehow through God's grace, or they will pray God that I should pass, but they won't study. So Rahu in third needs to develop the practical work they need to do and stop being too much belief based. Some people they just pray God for everything, where they can themselves do the work and get the results, but they'll expect God to shower His grace on them. So that is the issue of Ketu in ninth house. So these people can be very spiritual or religious because they want to rely on someone, something higher than themselves, some power higher than themselves. That is the ninth house. Ninth house is a power beyond your control. That is the ninth and 12th house of Jupiter. Third and sixth is Mercury, which is your own skills and your own abilities. So when Ketu is in ninth, these people want to always rely on God, or they pray too much. Even for small problems, they pray to God to solve them. So that should be avoided. But this is not a very troublesome placement for Rahu and Ketu. When Ketu goes to 10th house, Rahu will be in 4th house. 10th house is similar to 2nd and 6th. So Ketu here shows again the person is very secure in their outer life, that is career, job, status, marriage, and all that. But Rahu in 4th shows a weakness in their inner life. They are not very concerned about how they feel about the things. They don't want to. They don't want to explore their inner life. They just want to survive. 10th house is out of Saturn, and they just want to survive there. And livelihood is 10th house. So these people can be very ambitious about their career, and they're always doing the external things, fixing their home or fixing their vehicle, taking care of children's education, taking care of their son or daughter's wedding. They just want to do everything practically, but they don't want to consider emotional issues. Let's say the son has some problem, they won't be doing anything about it. They may do, they may take the son to a doctor and all that, but they won't be addressing the issue internally. If he has some emotional issues or lack of care, they won't be doing all that, because Rahu in fourth shows weakness in emotional matters. So they won't be very caring, or they don't want to do something which is not practical. So if you are saying them that I'm not feeling well, they would suggest you to go to the doctor instead of caring you for instead of talking with you and caring about your illness. They will just take you to the doctor. So there is a difference between emotional life and practical life. So these people need to be more sensitive to others, Rahu in fourth house people, and they have to be sensitive to their own emotions and feelings, and they have to explore that and see what they are feeling. Because when you don't know what you're feeling, you're just going like a robot. Let's say Ketu is in the 11th house, Rahu will be in the 5th house. 11th house is about the validation you receive from others. 5th house is about your own self esteem. 5th house is what you do for your own sake, not for anyone's approval. 11th house is what you do with others' approval. Because in a society, you cannot do everything. In a street, you cannot go and be naked, because there are rules and regulations. But 5th house is what you can do and enjoy in your home. You can do anything. 5th house is you can sing, dance, whatever you can do at home. But 11th house is governed by Saturn. Rules and regulations are there. So here Ketu in 11 shows the person is very concerned about what others are thinking about them or the native. What society will think if I do this. Let's say the person wants to become a musician, but the person is born in a traditional society where studying for engineering or doctor is the norm. So these people will not pursue their inspirations, fifth house, the music, and they will rather do something for the sake of others, for the approval of others. They will not be courageous enough to uh, pursue their own inspiration, because fifth house is the house of your natural talent. So these people need to explore their natural talent and creativity and do that, instead of seeking approval from others and doing that someone else's job. So many people are talented in India, but they still do IT and engineering where they don't have any interest. So because societies like countries like India are traditional and ruled by Saturn, that is why India and all is the Saturn's domain. Whereas in the United States and other European countries or in the West, it's more like you can do whatever you want. So these positions can be very difficult for Indians and traditional countries. Ketu in the 11th house. Also, this can give some issues with the native's friends or social circle. The person might not be happy with their social circle, because here the person has relied too much on others' approval. So now it is not backing up. Now the person needs to stand for himself and develop his own individuality, like the Rahu in first house person. When Ketu is in the 12th, It shows that the person has been focusing more on liberation and spiritual matters. If you see the Ketu and 12th house person are very spiritual and they always talk about God, liberation, and enlightenment and all that. But that is a sort of escapism as well. If you're not truly spiritual, then you're just escaping. So a lot of Ketu and 12th house people can stay in ashrams and uh, NGOs where they don't have to earn a living. Many people here with Ketu in 12th, they just want to enjoy and be relaxed. But Rahu in 6th is now pushing them to work hard. So these people must establish a balance between rest and work. They have taken more rest in previous lives. They could have just been in an ashram and where they were provided for food and all that, stay, rent, everything was provided. They could have been spiritual also, but usually a mix of thing is seen. But it's not a healthy spirituality. The spiritual life should also be balanced with material life. So this is spiritual life, and the sixth house is material life. Rahu in sixth now needs to develop it uh, practical life, and they have to go to a job and they have to earn and they have to seek that material balance, because nobody is going to provide for you if you're always thinking about God and enlightenment, but you're not focusing on where the next meal will come from, then it's an issue. So Rahu and Sixth can struggle with going to job or finding a job. These people might not find a job for so many years, and they stay at home, and they are dependent on the parents or siblings, something like that, or they are in an ashram even. So these people can not realize that they are not helping themselves, and Rahu in sixth now will force them to work. And usually Rahu in sixth house person will have double shifts, night shifts and all, because they are now paying the work which they didn't do in several lifetimes. So they have to work double now. If you see Rahu or Saturn in sixth, the person has to work extremely hard and they won't be getting any support from co-workers because their fair share of work they are not done in other lifetimes. Now Rahu is taking all that karma and pushing that into the sixth house. So this is how Ketu and Rahu will work around the houses, and I hope this was helpful. And check out your Rahu Ketu axis and see where Rahu is and which house Rahu is forcing you to develop. You can just study for yourself. If Rahu is in second or sixth or 10th, you need to get more practical and you need to focus on your external security like house, property, and finances, your job. This needs to be stable. You need to bring stability into these areas of life. Especially if Rahu is in second, you need to earn more and be responsible for your family. And let's say Rahu is in third, seventh, or 11th, you need to connect with more people because these are social houses. You need to connect with more people and you need to listen to others, because Ketu in first or fifth or ninth is very self centered and more dependent on their own self. You have to now develop your social skills and uh, see what others are doing also in their lives, and be more social and develop a more roundabout personality, because if you are just with yourself you are not developing your personality. Only when you mingle with others you can be more comfortable as a person in the world. And when Ketu Rahu is in 4 8 or 12, then the person needs to develop more inner life security, like they have to explore what is their emotion, what they're feeling, and how they can be safe emotionally, how they can be secure inwardly without the money and all that. So Rahu in 4 8 12 need to develop more inner security, and they have to develop more inner life, like they have to be happy without being dependent on external things like money or a car or something like that. So when Rahu is in 1 5 or 9, then the person needs to develop his own individuality, and he has to explore his own interest, and he has to explore what he is for, because relying on others, Ketu in 3rd 7th or 11th, has made the person weakened, because Rahu in 1st or 5th or 9th weakens a person. So now it's the time to get strong, make your individuality more strong, and develop your own talents and pursue them without fear of judgment from others, from the society. That is what the lesson of Rahu in first, fifth, or ninth would be. So I hope this summary was helpful to you, and check out your Rahu and Ketu and see how it has been affecting your life. I will connect you with another video. Thank you.